Welcome to the very first episode of DC Table Talk, the Overflow Edition. I'm Bryan Evans, joined by my friend and pastor Rodney Thrift.
Hello, how are you? So good to be with you today. I'm so excited about this podcast, and this is something brand new for us, so we're excited, but at the same time, I think it would be wise to say we're a bit nervous.
That's true. There's a lot that goes into it. We've been kind of trying to work things out, and there are going to be bugs along the road, but we're going to even those out as much as we can, and we'll go from there. And so if you attend Destination Church, which is where the DC from the name of the podcast comes from, you already know who Pastor Rodney is, and you may or may not know who I am because I work mostly behind the scenes. I don't like to be on stage as much, and I'm more behind the camera kind of guy. But if you're new to us, especially if this is your first time ever hearing either of our names, you may not know who we are at all. Maybe you don't know who Pastor Rodney is. You don't know who Bryan Evans is. So Pastor Rodney, why don't you take just a moment to introduce ourselves, and then we can jump into the episode for today.
Yeah, I always like to start with a little bit about myself and my marriage, because my wife Renee and I have been married 38 years. In August, we've been married 38 years. We have 3 children. They're adult children. They're all married, and so we also have 3 grandchildren. So I'm a granddad. It's a lot of fun being a granddad, and as well as it's being a father to my children. I've been in ministry since 1996 with like formal ministry in churches, and so that's been a blast. That's either full-time ministry or part-time ministry. And working, so I was bivocational for a season, so I know what that's like. Love to be able to talk to pastors that are bivocational. And so at Destination Church, the little bit of a backstory on Destination Church is that, so my wife and I planted a church here in Waycross, this area, in 2002. But then in 2010, Pastor Johnny Mitchum and his wife Wendy, we came together, and they had planted a church as well, and we took 2 churches, made them one church, and that is Destination Church back in 2010. So it is 2026, so we're a little over 15, but not 16 years old yet, because that would be in August is when we launched Destination Church. So just so good to be able to work and have a podcast. We're learning a lot about this as we're working through it, and I know there'll be some questions as well. I also had a career in the military. I spent 10 years in the United States Army. So just a little bit more about myself. I did that before I got out and came into ministry. So just a little bit about me.
Oh, that's good. And my name is Bryan Evans. My wife Ashley and I are celebrating 15 years of marriage this coming June, as well as 22 years together overall in total. We have 2 daughters, Lily, who's about to turn 12, and Aria, who'll be 4 in just a few weeks. And we also have a baby in heaven named Taylor that would have been between them. But I grew up as a preacher's kid, so I've pretty much always been around ministry. My dad was a youth pastor, then a pastor. So I've been in church almost my whole life, but I began actually serving in ministry for myself in 2010. I served as a youth pastor, a children's pastor, discipleship director for a total of about 8 years altogether. And my family came to Destination Church 2018, and we fell in love with the place. It's just a different atmosphere than what we're used to. I was brought on staff in 2020 as the media director. I oversee our social media, our website, video production team, and I guess we can add podcast host and producer to that list now.
Yes, that's right. We're excited about it.
Oh, yeah. And so that's just a little bit about us. If you didn't know us before, or maybe you learned something new. Maybe you've been coming here for a while and you just learned something new about one of us. But we hope that you have a better understanding of our background and who we are, because our backgrounds do play a lot into our life experiences and a lot of where we think about things, where we process things. And so I hope that will help you make a connection between the importance of our families and our lives and the table we're talking about, because there is a big correlation there you'll see in just a little bit. But with that said, Pastor Rodney, let's jump right into it. The name of this podcast is DC Table Talk, the Overflow Edition. As I mentioned, the DC represents our church, but what's the significance of Table Talk and the Overflow?
Well, I think it's, the table's always been a good place for me ever since I've been a Christian, and looking at how Jesus worked around the table as well, and he served well there. The other, I think we'll see in a few minutes when we get on in too. I'll give some little scripture reference on the table and the power of the table and the why. And so for us, it is very relational. It's always been relational in my family, and I wanted this to have a family feel, a very relational feel, and a relaxed feel. And so for me, in our home, that's how it's always been. So I think that's going to be the big why behind it was that. And the overflow is we're working off of the messages from Sunday. Of course, every now and then we may do something a little different, but most of the time it will be an extended piece from the message, and so we can dig a little deeper and be able to work off of that. So like we're at a table discussing it. We use that a lot, that reference of just sitting down with somebody with a cup of coffee, and this is what we're going to say.
That's good, because there's always more to be said, I'm sure, from the platform that you wish you could have said or you wish you had time to say, and we just run short of time, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think, if Sunday's the meal, this is the overflow. I mean, we can say that clearly. And then also, I believe some of the most meaningful faith conversations, they don't happen in rows, looking at the back of people's head. I think they happen around tables.
That's so good.
And so I think that would be a big piece of what we're looking at and how we'll see this thing unfold over these next few months, and hopefully as it takes off.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So I guess a question somebody may have, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, you listen to a lot of podcasts, there's a ton of them out there. So the question somebody may ask is, well, why are we starting a podcast? Why now?
I think it's an extended piece of the church itself. So we will hear other voices other than just you and I. Of course, we do use a team approach on our platform, and so we'll get to hear from those people as well. I think that's going to be awesome to get to hear. And but the other thing is that Sunday services have time limits,
right?
And so we want this again to be that the spillover from there. And I know that discipleship happens in conversation, and so I'm hoping that we'll be able to disciple people through the podcast. It'll be a piece for them, and they can go back, our people especially, and then others, because they can get the notes right offline. They could get the notes, and they would be able to work through and maybe answer some questions that they were answering. And the big thing now, because of social media and what it does for us, is people process at different speeds.
Right.
Like you and I both process at a different speed. Your creativity is way beyond mine. And I think, as I had someone come to me, as a matter of fact, 2 weeks ago, and give me some great insight on some things working about speed in message. And so I think as people are processing these different speeds, we're going to help them with the podcast, because like I've been saying lately, we're not going to be in a hurry, even though we know we're going after about a 30-minute time slot here. And and then some questions need more room than the sermon allows. And I hear those questions in between services. And so I think it's going to be good to write them down and then be able to ask those, whether it's one of our other team members that comes in and speaks, or even you're going to be able to ask me that question, and then we'll open it up and see what it looks like.
Oh, yeah. And I think it's worth mentioning, too, like right now, we're audio only for right now, but we will have video coming soon. Hopefully, April Fools, hopefully we'll have video rolling. But like right now, it's just two of us sitting in your office, just having a conversation. We just happen to turn the microphones on this time. We've had many conversations, but this kind of gives a glimpse of, that's really what it's all about, just conversations and sitting together and talking about the things of the Lord.
And, for us, we don't just want to inspire people. We want to help people process. And so hopefully, if they're in their car or sitting behind their desk, in their cubicle, wherever they are, this will be another piece for that as we open it on up. And I can't wait to go video, as a matter of fact. That's going to be fun. I know it brings a whole new element for us as well. And hopefully, like you're saying, April 1, we'll be able to kick it off. And by then, we'll have enough of these underneath us that we can really, really make it work. So I'm very excited about it.
Oh, definitely. So we talked a little bit about the importance of the table. And you mentioned there's a conversation element to it, belonging, family. Like what let's push a little bit more on that. What's some things about the table that inspires you and stands out to you?
One of the things, growing up, and I didn't grow up in a Christian home, but my dad always made sure we had our evening meal together. And it was very important to be around the table for my dad. And a lot of great discussion was had around the table. We were usually talking about things that would cause conflict, like politics, religion, sports, and things like that. But it was still, it could get heated at times. But then when I became a Christian, one of the first passages that really caught my eye from Jesus was Luke 22, verses 14 and 15, and right in there. And basically the scripture says, when the hour came, Jesus and his apostles reclined at the table. And I just love that sense of being able to sit back, and whether we're drinking a cup of coffee or having a meal together, we're reclining at the table. And then Jesus says, I have eagerly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. And I thought, wow, what if we could have a conversation around the table, and no better place than take the big meal we put out on Sunday mornings per se, and then being able to sit at the table and eat of it. So I think it's very important that we look at that, because what I know about a table, it should mean like belonging. It should mean conversation and family, and that's our heart, is to help people belong, be a part of the family of God ultimately, and for us to be able to have conversation. Even though it might get a little tense sometimes, I think that would be phenomenal. And then we'll talk about it in some later messages, but Jesus had some of his best teachings at tables. And I think about all the times he was at a table, and we'll look at some of those, I think, maybe kick some of these off with that and look at it. And then overflow, there's always an overflow. It's what spills out after time with God. And so we'll have had usually a day in between as we're creating these. And so I think that'll be good for us so that we can have questions and stories and application and growth, because we're all about growth at Destination Church.
Right. Yeah, and I know a little bit of time to process is good for me, because usually I hear something and I have a first thought about it, but then I take a couple of days and think about it, really ruminate on it, and just kind of process it. And it can mean a whole separate thing 2 days from now, and it can mean something a little bit deeper to you. So I love that whole concept of the overflow. So when they come in and listen to our podcast, what are some things they can expect when they come and listen to us? I
think, looking at the table itself, I enjoyed being at the table with my family when I was growing up, and then even with my table and with my own family, with my own 3 children and my wife growing up. It was a place where I didn't want to feel rushed. And so I think we're going to see that in this. And for us, it was also a place where our faith was talked about. And so we're going to get a lot of that. And I think it's crucial. We always had great questions for our children around the table, no matter all the way up through, till they graduated high school and our kids went to college. But for us, getting this working for us, I think looking at like what it is and what it isn't, as we're walking through this, it's going to be a conversation. It's not going to be a lecture. And so I think the conversation aspect, I listen to a lot of podcasts as well, and I love the conversations, and so that's going to be a piece of it. It will be a follow-up. It's not a replacement for church. I think that's important. Right. I believe in the local church. I believe the local church is the hope of the world, but this is going to be a follow-up from Sunday unless, and I think you would let our audience know that it's going to be a special podcast about something. Right. And so that we always want to remember it's a follow. I love doing these follow-ups. It's going to be great. It's going to be very honest. I think I could use words like pastoral and practical. I want people to have a practical takeaway one more time from the message, and then that direct connection from what we learned. We're learning over and over again as we work through these 3 services. As the Spirit of the Lord's moving, we may have a piece that hits in one service and not another. So we'll look at some of that. So I think I was talking to my pastor about that this morning, and he was asking me questions because he's never done, when coming through, he never ministered in multiple services. And so I think that's going to be good. And we can open some of those things up too. That's the beauty of not rushing this to me, and being able to connect it too. And so that's what it is, and it will be. But then what it's not, and not that we won't have topics that are debatable, but we're not going to have debates on here, most likely. I don't mind doing that. I did a lot of that in the early days as a Christian, but we're trying to disciple people here. If somebody has a question that they want to talk about, we can figure it out outside of that. But on here, I don't think we'll have a lot of debating. And the other thing that I don't want to do is re-preach the sermon, so that's not going to happen. And then it's just, it's not a place where you have to know it all. I want people to be able to listen and be like, oh my goodness, I can't wait for next week. And because, and they can learn from it. So I think those are some key things. We've been using that term direction a lot. And so if Sunday gives direction, then this will bring clarity to the direction.
That's so good. That's good. And and just kind of speaking of that a little bit too, like every Sunday message will be linked in the show notes below. So if you missed the message, you can always click that link, go listen to the message, then come back, or you can listen to us talk first, then go back and get the full picture, however you want to do that. And by all means, leave comments. If you have questions about something, leave comments. We'll get to them and see if we can get those answered for you. So this is not just for you to listen and forget about it. This is for you to listen, internalize it, process it, and to hopefully the goal is help draw you closer to Jesus. And so on top of just kind of process the message a little bit more, we discussed having some little more insights into the message prep. And so tell me a little bit. We had a discussion about that a couple weeks ago, but kind of tell us more about what your thought process behind that.
I think looking at some helpful things like message prep and being able to help others maybe do that, but also glean from that is ours all starts with us really praying, and we're in 21 days of prayer right now and fasting, but we pray and ask the Lord for direction for the year, and then we come out from under that with usually looking at a word or titles of how we're going to appropriately, per se, as a shepherd, feed the flock or feed people. And so a lot of times, like this message series we're in right now, beginning of the year, so we're, as we're working through this, looking at key things that most people are doing at the beginning of the year. Then we start tying in scripture to it and start working it from there. And before long, what you'll have is we'll get a series and start working the series. And most of our series are topical, and I know that can be a topic that's looked at one of two ways as we're looking at topical things. But we're hitting our people where we feel like that that they need what it is, because we're looking at our own selves, our own families, and then also what does it look like going into a brand new year. And so I think that's wise. And so as we're walking through with the podcast, I think it's big to realize that we probably won't be adding a new truth, but we're helping people walk out what they already heard.
That's good.
And so I think that's how that'll work. And even as we're getting ready to go into a new series in February, we'll hear that over and over again. And one of the new things we're doing right now with our Hispanic campus is after February, we'll be in the same message series together. And so there's a lot going on there and how that works. And we're learning how to be bilingual and work through that. So that's new for us as well.
That's good. That's good. So kind of with all that being said, if you had one thing that you hope for people, that you hope this does for people 6 months from now, what is one thing that you hope this podcast is going to do for somebody?
I hope they're going to be able to listen and grow as far as what was said from the platform. It's not just a message from there and then we go out and we don't do anything with it. I hope that this will be the thing that puts action behind the message. Mm-hmm. And so when they tune in to the podcast and they get the overflow, it's going to encourage them to press on for the rest of the week, because I know everybody won't listen on Monday necessarily or whatever. So I hope it's going to be that piece that puts action to the message. And over again, even when we have guests with us that will see that. I think that's big, is action to the message as we are continue to build the different podcasts and based off the messages.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I know we talk a lot about, we don't want people just to come and just to hear a message. We don't want people just to come and have just a singular experience, but we want them to it's a journey. It's a whole process. We use the word discipleship a lot. It's really important to us, and this is kind of another key to that. Is just one more thing to help you through your week. Maybe you listen to the message, you heard what was being said, but you rushed off to lunch or whatever, rushed off to jump back into life. So maybe this kind of helps set you back onto the message and turn your eyes back to where, and your heart back to what you were hearing.
Yeah, I think, Sunday will start the conversation, and then this is where it continues.
Right.
So in our words, we would say, like, pull up a chair, right? There's always room at the table. That was always the way it was at Mom and Daddy's house, and that's always the way it's been at my house as well, is there's always room at the table. And so I think it's good for us to be able to say that, that to pull up a chair, there's always room at the table, and continue the conversation that we started on Sunday.
Yeah, so good.
So again, we're not adding new truth. We're helping people walk out what they already heard. And so I think the heart of the message would be it's growth over perfection. Mm-hmm. We've been learning that a lot through some of the stuff we're doing in prayer and all right now as well. And then it's direction over pressure. In other words, just take that one step. Mm-hmm. And for some people, one step is salvation. Mm-hmm. For some people, one step is baptism. For some people, one step will be getting into a small group this semester. And on the story goes. So it's just that one step or that one direction. I think a lot of us right now are talking about being in the gym or not being in the gym. And for some people, the hardest step is the threshold going, opening the door and stepping into the gym. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of the same in our spiritual life, I think, with a lot of things. And then I would want the faith that feels livable, and that they can, as a dad, that know how to live my life for Christ, and then how to train up my children, how to have a healthy marriage. And so it would be definitely a faith that's livable. And I would like for them to almost be able to look back and say, my goodness, look at what I've learned right here in these last 6 months. And we want to be a place where, again, we are very active in our faith. We're not just hearing and doing nothing about it, but we're actually doers of the Word. We're hearing the Word and we're doing what the Word says, and we're very active in our faith. And so I think that's very important over these, as we begin to build on what this looks like. And I think there'll be some clarity in there as well when we look directly at the messages, because again, today is the opening number 1 first podcast we've ever done. And but as we start opening the message up and look at the overflow from the table, it's going to be awesome. And then even as other members of the team come in, I think it's going to have even greater dynamics to it as we open it up. So today, it's a great day to be with you, and to be, podcast 1, walking through this, learning about it, figuring out how we're doing it. And we'll probably go back and listen to this and be like, oh my goodness, what in the world were we thinking? But I know we've been praying about this for a long time, so it's good to be able to pull the trigger on it and move forward. And very excited about it. Can't wait to see what the Lord does. And I know we'll be able to talk about many other things as well. Especially some of our opening lines, look at some of our, some of the other things we're doing in our families and in this church family, as well as maybe some of our things that we do as for recreation and hobbies and stuff like that. We'll be able to kick it in. But right now, this is where we are. Excited about it. Thank you so much for being able to host this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so next episode, we'll jump right into this past couple of messages, to kind of get caught up a little bit where we are in the year, and then we'll move forward from there. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great. I'm excited, and I can't wait to see what God does through this.
Amen. And so again, we'll say it to you over and over again. Pull up a chair. There's always room at the table. Sunday starts the conversation, but this is where it continues.